I want to welcome you all to a new episode of our MedTech Talks. Today, in the context of a series of interviews with relevant international institutions in the healthcare sector, specifically talking about innovation. I have the pleasure to have with me today my dear friend Sonja O Malley, Senior Director of Innovation at Cleveland Clinic. Welcome, Sonja. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Asise. It is a pleasure to be with you today.
So, today we want to talk with Sonja about how technology, innovation, digital transformation is changing the healthcare system, right? To provide more access, quality access to more patients. So, Sonja, first of all, I want to start talking about your soft landing in Chile. What are your first impressions about the ecosystem of innovation, how the system is working here with the objective to address more patients' life in a good quality?
Thank you for the question. From the moment I arrived, the sun was coming up, the plane was landing, the mountains were peeking through the snow-capped mountains, through the clouds. This is a beautiful country. The leaders that I have met with since I've been here have been very inspiring and are very passionate about changing healthcare. The observations have been interesting. Our countries, the US and this region, deal with the same challenges. There are some that I feel are ever present and exacerbated here. Exchanging data between providers when a patient goes from one provider to another. I understand that data is not fluid. It is not exchanged and is hard, the patient has to sort of recap and the provider starts at the beginning. The second observation is access to care. We deal with those same challenges in the US, but here I believe they are extended, and those patients that need that care are not able to access that in a timely manner. We have opportunity to work together and change healthcare globally.
Absolutely, and that is our purpose, right? We are working very hard to make sure that patients have access on time to a quality healthcare system. Yeah, and experience, right? Now talking a little bit about the future. Take us to the future. And I want to understand how Cleveland Clinic, which is a leading institution, right, testing and adopting new technologies. Can you comment a little bit about how these new technologies, disruptive innovations are impacting patients and the whole system?
Yes, I would be happy to. So I think our challenge right now, because digital transformation is happening at such an accelerated rate, is how to adopt these technologies in a safe and ethical manner. And so we have a lot of initiatives where we are looking at one of four things, really. How do we impact the patient and their experience and the quality of their care? How do we take care of populations of patients? How do we impact the caregivers that serve those patients? And how do we impact the cost or efficiency of these technologies that we work with? We have clinical implications, right? And so each project that we do, we manage the risk, but really try to be progressive in managing that risk and trying new things. So we're doing a lot of activity in using AI as a team member, not as a tool that is adjacent to the process, but really is in the workflow.
I love that. As a team member, not as a tool.
Yeah, not as a tool, not as a replacement for that human in the loop, but really using it as part of a team member, whether it's clinical decision support or through a patient experience of how to get somebody to the right appointment or the right provider of care, or how to automate some of the back-end processes around billing and coding and payment structures to support the efficiency side of the equation.
Oh, that's super interesting, super interesting. And talking about that innovation, AI, etc., can you comment a little bit how a benchmark institution as Cleveland Clinic, right, collaborates and have this open innovation with different participants in the ecosystem, with small startup, I would say, right?
Yeah. I think to be successful, you have to look outside of your own four walls. There's too much technology change. There's too much sophistication that's happening in healthcare today to think you can do everything on your own. So what we do is we look for partners, whether they're startups or industry corporate partners, to figure out what they do well and what we do well. We are experts at clinical care and have the know-how and the workflow in living lab to safely try new technologies and put them in the workflow as a standard of care over time. We look for partners with those complementary skills, whether they're startups or large corporations that have sort of the sophisticated data science capabilities or image analysis capabilities to, again, support the clinical decision making so that we go from a prescriptive mode to a predictive mode and get ahead of what might be coming so that we can intervene. And we look for partners that have those expertise that's complementary to what we do to achieve whatever that outcome, whether it's the patient engagement for that particular program or the technologies that is needed to understand what's happening at the enterprise level from a patient monitoring perspective with that augmented intelligence.
Great. And going a little bit deeper on that, when we talk about innovation, it's really important to have clarity on the problem we want to solve, right? That insight about the problem we want to solve comes internally from Cleveland Clinic, or you also co-create with different players in the market to understand what are those problems we need to solve?
Yes, and yes. So always we need to have a clinical champion or a business champion that sees a challenge that needs to be solved. And it's using our intellectual property or our expertise to bring that forward. And then we look for ecosystem partners to figure out, to work with us on how to solve that problem at the right time. We may take some early steps to do some proof points or proof of principles, or whether it's creating models or algorithms. But when it comes to creating a product at scale, we oftentimes look for partners because we're on the clinical care side. We're not on the product development. We're not on the software development, the regulatory, all those things. That's that complementary experience that we look to at the right time to really scale and put these into the standard of care for our patients and into the workflow.
Super. And in this journey of innovation, transformation, can you share with us what are the main challenges, right, or obstacles that you have faced? And on the other side, what are the learnings that you have had and can share with us?
So I think you were spot on with your assessment of understanding what the problem is that you're trying to solve, and spending that time up front and deeply understanding the problem, rounding, observing firsthand what the challenges are, and speaking with different stakeholders to deeply understand that, in addition to the solution and how you're thinking about solving it. And making sure that solution is differentiated from what may already exist in the market or other workflows. And also making sure that it's not a technology looking for a problem to solve. Yeah. We spend a lot of time really trying to vet that early on and make sure that we're looking at it holistically and working with the stakeholders that are on the front lines and that deal with these challenges every day, so that it is a challenge, we deeply understand it, and we are developing a solution that really solves that challenge. We also have learned that innovation is a discipline. First, it's a culture.
Yeah.
And second, it's a discipline. So we feel strongly that we have a team that has expertise, industry expertise, clinicians, biomechanical engineers, software developers, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs. So we bring this experience as the guides to our innovators, as the Sherpa, so to speak, for helping them to understand the process, advance their thinking, advance their ideas, ideate and iterate to actually put them into practice. And we've learned that's a really important part of the process that promotes transparency, accountability, and communication, so that at all times the innovation team, along with our innovators, know where this project is in the process and really helps to advance the work along that along that journey. I think lastly, one of the lessons learned is we work with large companies and we work with entrepreneurs that are earlier stage businesses or startups. We tend to move in increments of weeks and days and months. A startup tends to make decisions in hours, hours and days, right? And so I think trying to make sure those cultural objectives and timelines, we're respectful of those and mindful of those, and try to come to, a cadence and a pace that works for both teams so that we can achieve those outcomes together.
Great. Can I ask you, what about incentives? How do you align the objectives of the entire organization around innovation, technology adoption, etc.?
Yeah, well, our CEO, Tom Mihaljevic, is a cardiothoracic surgeon. He made a very poignant statement recently around those organizations that are average and those that are exceptional will be differentiated by digital transformation. That innovation and that mindset to bring technologies and innovations to our patients and caregivers is not only a cultural aspect of our organization, it's a core pillar, it also is how we measure ourselves. So every one of our 77,000 caregivers, as part of our annual performance reviews, innovation is a part of that culture. We also have a program that incents innovators to come to the table, disclose their challenges, how they would solve those challenges, and see if there's commercial potential for those solutions. If the answer is yes, and we commercialize those solutions, those innovators are eligible for some of the revenue or upside after expenses are deducted, of course, to get through that journey of development. But after those expenses are deducted, there's skin in the game for everybody at the table, and those innovators have the opportunity to partake on that. We've found that very inspiring for innovators. We've also found it very motivating.
Absolutely.
And we see it as a very strong recruitment and retainment tool for our caregivers, because they do want to make a difference. And they do these types of innovation activities over and above their regular day job. It's very inspiring.
Absolutely. Love it. So lastly, in your opinion, and knowing, I know that you have a deep understanding of the US healthcare system, and comparing that with what you have seen here in Chile, in Latin America, what is the one thing that needs to happen, right, to accelerate this innovation journey, digital transformation in the healthcare system in the region? Talking about Chile, talking about Latin America, in your opinion, what is that one thing that needs to happen?
I think collaboration in a more of an ecosystem model. It's hard to change payment systems. It's hard to change government regulation and all those sorts of things that are very important and very relevant and very influential in how healthcare is delivered. But I think what is in the control in more of an innovative fashion is to have different parties come together and collaborate to change differentiating technologies for patients. So think about that foundational thing with exchanging data, right? Going beyond a pilot, creating technology that can scale and help patients be able to share their record to help the providers take the best care that they want to take on these patients. And I think companies and entrepreneurs and health systems can come together and start a movement and an initiative to help do that on a manageable scale. Not trying to boil the ocean, not trying to change all of healthcare, but taking a particular challenge to solve and coming together, figuring out how to solve that, putting funding towards that so everybody's incented, everybody has skin in the game to make life better for patients and caregivers who serve them.
Great. We, as Johnson & Johnson Medtech, are really committed to promote this collaboration about different stakeholders from the system, payers, providers, I would say in the industry, right? To drive this ecosystem and continue innovating, evolving to make sure that we are able to provide access to more patients over the time. Thank you very much, Sonia, for sharing all this tremendous insight with us today. We, from our side, continue working hard to really transform the life of the thousands of patients that we have to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and keeping patients as our North Star will lead to opportunity and success for the healthcare ecosystem globally.
Thank you.
Cece.